What do atheists think happens after you die? Well, beyond the fact that atheists are individuals and not part of some grand collective, I can really only answer for myself, but that's the question that family-friendly daddy blog wants to ask. So here we go, answering a question, and hopefully not regretting the exchange. Kate over at Bionic Dance already did this, and she got frustrated at this guy's seeming inability to listen to what is being said. And I don't blame her, I would be too. But I thought I'd give it a shot. He was already on my exceedingly long list of videos to do, and I'm hoping he learned something from his abject failure. So this is going to be kind of detailed, spelled out so that even he can't misrepresent what I'm saying, although if experience tells me anything, he's certainly going to try. What happens when you die? Do atheists have beliefs? Where is this all going? Let's go find out.
If you are an atheist or agnostic, I'm especially happy that you watch my videos.
I don't. I'm watching this one because it asks a question of atheists that I'm going to answer. I will probably never watch another one unless it happens to be something else worth responding to. That's kind of how this whole video response thing works. And I think it's funny how many theists think that they've got these massive atheist audiences. You know, Andy Bannister and his atheist friends and all that. Except he has none. Atheists don't watch you regularly, and if we happen to catch a video, I'll be honest, it's to laugh at you. It's to disassemble your religious nonsense. We are not your fans. We are not subscribing to you. It's our job, self-imposed as it is, to show that you have no idea what you're doing. Because you don't. How the religious so entirely misunderstand reality and pretty much everything, I just don't understand.
It's an honor, actually, for me to make videos for you because we are so different. Because my perspective of reality and the universe, etc., is so much different from you.
And that's a problem. See, you say you want to have a discussion, and I'm totally fine with that, but the only way that you can have a productive, worthwhile discussion is to start from a common understanding, at least to a certain degree. And you, at least to judge from your responses to Bionic Dance, can't do that. And this is a problem that I've seen with a lot of religious people, that they're so utterly buried in their theology that they're incapable of understanding anything that falls outside of it. They're incapable of stepping back and evaluating what's actually being said to them without reinterpreting it all in the context of their faith. This means that really no productive conversations can ever be had because you're not listening to what people are telling you, only to what you want people to be telling you.
And I hope that you feel as you watch my videos that I have nothing but respect for you. I would never think that you're ignorant, stupid, evil, any of these stereotypes that you might think a Christian might think about an atheist person or agnostic. Not at all.
I don't know about any of that, but I do know, having watched all of your responses to Kate, that you don't respect our positions because you refuse to even understand them. You refuse to even acknowledge what they are. Everything that you said to Bionic Dance, and everything I'm sure you'll say if you respond to me, it only shows that you're not listening to what we actually have to say. It all gets run through your Christian filter, and then you respond to what your reinterpretation says that we said, instead of what we actually said. We are saying what we mean. It doesn't need to be reinterpreted. It just needs to be listened to. Why don't you try doing that?
I think it's awesome that we can have these conversations because we can appreciate how different we are. We're not trying to convert each other. We're just trying to understand each other a little bit better.
Except, as I said, You don't do that. You seem incapable of understanding the simplest, most straightforward statements made to you. You refuse to accept that people are not just non-theistic versions of theists. You recast everything that is said into something it was never intended to be, and so long as you do that, there can never be a productive conversation. And the fault for that is all yours.
So I'm challenging myself in making this video. This is something I honestly want to know, and that is, what do you believe happens after you die?
You die. The lights go out. Everything that you are vanishes into the metaphorical ether. You're gone, never to return. Honestly, it's a Monty Python sketch. This person is no more. He has ceased to be. He's expired and gone to meet his maker. He's a stiff, bereft of life. He rests in peace. If you hadn't stuck him in a box, he'd be pushing up the daisies. His metabolic processes are now history. He's off the twig. He's kicked the bucket. He's shuffled off this mortal coil, run down the curtain, and joined the bleeding choir invisible. This is an ex-person. And no, I'm not going to do a British accent. Sorry. Okay. And I don't believe it based on some kind of emotionally comforting faith. I accept it as reality because that's what every single solitary shred of objectively verifiable evidence that we have says happens. How that makes anyone feel is entirely irrelevant.
See, here's why that's a challenging question. Because something I learned from agnostics and atheists that watch my channel, and people who are just very into science and disregard religion altogether, whatever part of the Venn diagram you're in, what I just said, what I've learned is the word believe or belief is basically a word you don't use.
Only because we have such extensive experience with the religious entirely misrepresenting what that word means. Again, the religious keep insisting that they get to control the narrative by controlling how words are used, and it doesn't work that way. It's like the word faith. We can't use the word because the religious will try to use it against us. The religious, by and large, and I'm not trying to put this on you, but judging by your interaction with Kate, I kind of have to wonder, but the religious, consciously or subconsciously, are not intellectually honest people. This is something you really need to fix.
When it comes to science, there's no such thing as belief.
Sure there is. If the religious can just follow the dictionary definition of the word and not reinterpret it within their own rather bizarre worldview. But because they can't, this leaves atheists having to wonder, well, how is whatever I'm going to say going to be misinterpreted by this theist, and what do I have to do to get around that? Because, like it or not, that's what happens constantly.
So we can talk about evolution and science and all those things, and that would be one thing, but that's not what this conversation is about. I'm asking you this. Eventually, we're all going to die. And I'm asking personally for you, when you die, what do you believe is going to happen?
You poof out of existence. Everything that was ever identifiably you vanishes as your brain shuts down, as the electrochemical reactions in your neurons cease to function. You are nothing more than your physical body. Your consciousness is nothing more than the reactions in your brain. When that dies, so do you. We have no reason to think that anything else is so.
Because you can say, well, belief doesn't apply to me because of science. And for the most part, that's going to be true in life. But when we're not talking about life anymore, we're talking about death. There's no way around it. You have to believe something. You can't depend on science to determine what happens to you after you die. You can't say in full confidence that it just instantly fades to black and you lose consciousness. You can't know that for a fact.
I don't know anything for an absolute fact. That's not how reality works. The best we can do is accept, provisionally, the best supported ideas based on the best objectively demonstrable evidence that we currently have. That could change tomorrow. Then we reevaluate our position in light of the new evidence. Absolute certainty is not a thing that you can have in the real world. I don't care if that scares you. I don't care if that makes you unhappy. That's the reality that we inhabit. People need to come to grips with that.
You can believe it, but you can't know it because science can't back up the thought of, does your consciousness continue after your physical body dies?
There is absolutely no reason to think that it does. See, this is something else that the religious don't get, and it's not just them, but they seem to have the biggest problem with it, at least that I've seen. Rational people only accept things for which there is a good reason to think is actually true. You can make up all kinds of fanciful notions for why things do what they do. That doesn't make any of those notions true. They might be emotionally comforting, but they're not demonstrably so. Rational people do not believe things just because it makes them feel good to do so. Simply inserting God, or the flying spaghetti monster, or invisible, intangible, universe-creating pixies as an explanation for something that you don't understand, that doesn't make any of it true. How you feel doesn't matter. The intellectual quality of your positions do.
So that's what I'm asking. There's so many things that you can say that, well, belief doesn't apply here. But when you die, you have to have some kind of thought about what happens to you.
Sure, and my thoughts are dictated by the evidence. I go where the evidence leads, feelings be damned. The evidence does not show that there is an afterlife. In fact, based on what we know, there's no way an afterlife could even happen. It's all comforting nonsense based on wishful thinking, not an appreciation for the facts. And so long as that's true, the religious will never be rational.
And if you do not subscribe to any kind of religious belief or a sense of life after you die, so is that what you believe? Is that you just instantly fades to black, you lose consciousness, and that's it? You do not exist anymore. No part of you moves on. That's it.
Yep, that's it. Why is that so difficult to deal with? Because I've had lots of discussions with the religious on this over the years, and invariably, they can't accept that that's my position. They will say, really? That's what you believe? Seriously? I mean, you can't really think that, can you? Yes, that's what I think, based on the evidence that we have. It doesn't matter how that makes you feel. Your feelings don't affect reality. But the religious can't just accept what we say. They have to run it through their filter and convert it into what they'd like us to say, whether that's accurate or not. These people are intellectually stunted. It's a serious problem.
But even if that is your perspective, my challenge to you, and I'm challenging myself by asking you this, are you agreeing that that's what you believe? Since we can't scientifically prove anything. And of all people, I admit that my own beliefs, my own Christian beliefs about what happens when we die, I can't prove that to you right now.
Yeah, because we can't prove anything to any significant degree of absolute certainty. I can't even prove that I exist absolutely, but we have to follow the evidence to the best of our ability, and that's kind of the difference between you and me. I care what actually is. I don't care how it makes me feel. I care if it's true, to the best of my ability to determine truth based on the evidence. You, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth here, but in my experience, this is the case with the religious, but they don't care if it's true, so long as it makes them feel good. The feelings matter more than the facts. And that's just pathetic.
It's a belief, it's faith.
No, it's not. It's a well-founded position based on the evidence that we have at hand, held provisionally until something better comes along. If there was good evidence tomorrow for the existence of a God, then I'd believe in that God based on the evidence because that's what the evidence said was most likely so. But I won't accept it as valid until it's supported by objectively verifiable evidence, and neither should you. Neither should anyone, because what you want to be true has no bearing on what's actually true. I don't care if you don't want to die. Too bad. I don't care if you want there to be a magical paradise in the sky somewhere where you can live forever. Big deal. We have no good reason to think that any of those things are the case. Therefore, we have no good reason to believe it. And you don't either. That's what you don't understand.
But is this a conversation topic in which if you're atheist or agnostic or just firmly believe in science and no religion at all, whatever category you're in, does this put you in a position where you are going to have to admit that this requires you to have a belief system?
Nope. Not in the sense that you're talking about anyway, which, again, is why these discussions go nowhere, because you insist on forcing everything into your religious mold and not just accepting what people tell you is an accurate representation of their position. The same thing happens with the word faith. The religious are desperate to get the non-religious to use the word faith, to admit to having faith, even if it isn't the same kind of faith that the religious have. Because the second that word comes out of the atheist's mouth, the religious feels somehow justified that everyone is just like them, and somehow that makes their unsupported and irrational beliefs worth holding. And they're wrong.
Because, and arguably, faith, that ultimately, because science can't prove what happens to your consciousness after you die, does that force you to have some sort of belief? And if you say, well, I've never thought about it. Okay, well, now you've watched my video. You've thought about it. This whole video has been about it. What do you believe? Are we agreeing that there's no escape from belief and faith when it comes to your perspective of what happens to, let's just say, your consciousness after your physical body dies?
Nope, we do not agree. And I know you're desperate to try to shoehorn atheists into your mold, but it doesn't work that way. Even if we use that word, knowing full well that we don't mean the same thing by it that you seem to, you'll pretend that somehow justifies your side of the argument when it does nothing of the sort. You don't understand rational thought processes. Coming to a conclusion based on evidence held for rational reasons, that's entirely different than clinging to a belief for emotional reasons based on nothing but blind faith and wishful thinking. Those aren't even in the same solar system. They're not even in the same galaxy. So why do the religious keep pretending that they are?
I am so excited to hear what you have to say. I'm challenged, hopefully you're challenged, and we can appreciate our different perspectives. What do you have to say right here?
Yeah, and Bionic Dance tried to tell you, and you misrepresented everything she had to say through multiple videos. I have no doubt that you'll try to do the same here if you choose to respond, and I have no doubt that everyone else recognizes it too, because your like to dislike ratio really sucks. Everyone sees what you're doing, except you apparently. That's why I was really clear in what I was saying here, and I'm telling you right up front that if you want to have a productive conversation, you need to stop assuming what I'm telling you. You need to stop misinterpreting what I'm telling you. You need to simply listen to what I'm saying and accept my words as an accurate representation of my position. If you don't understand, ask. Don't assume, ask. Because that's the only way any of these conversations actually go anywhere. Because most of them, again in my experience, have the theist making absurd presuppositions, ignoring what they're being told, throwing around straw men, and then running back to their side declaring victory. It's never about having an honest exchange of ideas. It's about scoring brownie points, either with other theists, with themselves, or with their imaginary friend. none of that actually means anything. It's a sign of an immature participant, and most atheists have better things to do with their time than to deal with children making fools of themselves. So you've got another chance here to make a better showing than you did with Kate. Will you do it? That's up to you. Let's see what you've got.